did it with one button push. I received the minutes from Peg. They were very nicely detailed. Any questions on the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dan, are you aye?
I am.
Okay. Karen, do you have anything to say other than when we get to the budget?
I love the 5 o'clock meetings.
Okay, that's a repeat of
Make
something.
sure I get that in the minutes.
No, I'm
Is
good.
there
You have
any
it up-
public here?
You have it up on your agenda.
Let's get right to the budget.
Oh, I'll get a joke because you're gonna find.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Get what?
Oh,
Karen, do you want to make a
Sorry.
statement on the budget to, going beyond your message that you gave us, the nice message of the budget? Or do you want us to just get into it?
I think just getting into it, I think you have a lot to cover.
I wanted to briefly, in a general discussion way, touch on revenues. We don't have any approval authority over revenues. We do, for the purpose of the meeting, I just wanted to let you know, from my analysis of it, everybody is saying, wow, what a great budget, we're able to bring people back, et cetera, et cetera. I apologize, I will turn that off. There's no pie in the sky lottery winning here. As I look at the revenues, they are, and Melissa, please correct me if I'm wrong, but everything, I'm looking at the general page under revenues. We have had some increases, but they're normal increases, nothing major. We do show under state grants, for instance, real estate and property tax revenue is up, what did I say, 797,000, but that's mostly Prop 2.5. 2.5% of property taxes, for instance, can be increased by the city every year, and we do that.
So that doesn't need to be a vote?
No, that's by law, what the tax rate can be increased by. We're held to the 2.5.
The 2.5 keeps us
Yeah.
strict, so if we want to raise 3, we'd have to ask the people, we'd have to ask the citizens. And there might be some new growth. I just wanted to ask, was there any new growth, or a lot, or minor amount? I assume a
Slight
minor,
increase in new growth.
just a little bit? Okay.
Which is always nice.
Do you both understand new growth? It's new property, renovations, et cetera? Okay, good. Cherry Sheet was up a little bit. That's money in both regular aid and Chapter 70 money. So generally, there's over $1 million, and local receipts is up a little bit. But they're not significant. But it is, those 3 categories, just those 3 give us about $1 million in new dollars. But of course, we have mandated increases, such as our union employees getting raises, or healthcare. I don't know, we have to go into it, where things, expenses are up, but,
You will be going into it.
yeah. I'm just saying that I didn't see anything in revenue that showed dramatic change to me, except for the real estate property tax, but that's because it's a large amount, and 2.5% of it is a large amount. So, does Karen, you or Melissa want to add anything to
Right,
that?
and just looking at your, look at your budget figures from year to year, and
Mhm.
you see how they increase. So,
Mhm.
like the total budget, when you look at the grand total of the budget
Mhm.
from each year, it increases slightly from each year. And as you know, the expenses increase a lot more than slightly.
Well, right, and usually a lot more than 2.5%.
Right.
Basically, what I wanted to say is, from my point of view, these are realistic figures based on not guesses, not pie in the sky, not, hope for dollars. They're real dollars. They are based on the mayor and the finance director's education in this area, where they know what the revenue should be. So that's all I wanted to say. Do the counselors have any questions?
I do have a question, actually. When you're preparing for receipts and that
Mhm.
sort of thing, how do you categorize, how do you know in advance, this is gonna sound like a really dumb question, how do you know in advance things like Medicaid reimbursement? How do you know
That's on the cherry sheet.
that, okay, so that,
Oh, no, not the Medicare one. Where's my cherry
Medicaid,
sheet? Medicaid. Okay.
Because it was high, then it
What-
was low, and then it's kind of high again. How do
It's
you,
a filing.
how do you plan for that?
Well, Medicare reimbursement is, you know, pretty consistent based on what's been submitted by the school department. But basically, we do all local receipts, based on last year and what we, you know, what came in last year, and unless we know of a dramatic, change, then it should come in the next year. And I believe the Medicare reimbursement went down.
Medicaid, actually.
Well, the Medicaid reimbursement didn't go down as much as we estimated it low because something had changed and we were unsure of if we were gonna get the same amount we had gotten in prior years. And we have gotten the 65 already this year, so we feel comfortable that we'll get the 65 next year.
Okay.
So looking at actuals from previous years, you know, and when we estimate, just like, you know, your fees, your building permits and all those things, we look at what we are at actually, and then we don't
Are we gonna go over
overestimate.
that? Yeah.
We try, you know, we are not only frugal, we're always try to be, you know, we don't overestimate
Mhm.
anything, because that could be,
My
Agreed.
experience
we're
with,
conservative.
yes, very conservative
Mhm.
revenue estimates, so that if you get more money, great.
Right.
But that way you're not hurt and having to cut a budget in the middle of the year.
That's exactly right.
Like when the state decides, oh, we're not gonna give you as much money as we
Right.
thought we would, but let's hope they don't do that to us. Anything else on that? Okay, let's move into education then. And I'll turn the floor over to the superintendent. You can, I've looked at this and very happy for you. Very happy the
We're
way this
very
whole thing
happy.
has worked out.
Very happy, and,
So this is
okay, and Dale probably, we can keep that there too. Did everybody get a copy of this as well, though?
Those,
Yes.
and actually, normally, these just come to us for budget, like, proposals. It's the budget itself that they're going over,
Mhm.
not so
Okay.
much the proposal.
All right.
Just to make sure the counselors know, we
Right.
don't have authority to change
Right.
anything in that
Right.
budget.
Right,
That's
so
school board
what's
authority.
in front of them is the budget itself.
Okay,
We can only,
I noticed that Dan has his,
Yeah.
yeah, but I wanted, just for my
So-
purposes, I wanted to know.
yeah. So, the other Dan.
I have mine as well.
Oh, you have yours as well, great,
For
okay.
the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But the
So-
other departments
yes.
don't provide them to
Yes.
the counselors, they come to us for our budget meetings.
Okay, so,
But we appreciate it.
okay, thank you.
I don't disappreciate the other
Okay.
ones, but I
Absolutely.
appreciate, because we don't have, it's a large part of the budget, and we have to have knowledge in case the constituent wants to know. And I want to be able to pull it up or,
Well, it is, and that's why we try to put more information into it about, you know, what the spending, how the money is spent,
Mhm.
and, you know, what contributes to our budget. So one thing, of course, is that fluctuates is choice and charter. And there was a page in this budget document that showed that, and the good news is that our...
where is that? Can you tell me the page?
It's in
on it?
tab 2. It's the first page in tab 2.
And this is in your budget,
In
not
my
the
budget,
budget.
right.
Okay.
And you don't have it in front of you, but I'll just talk about it.
Okay.
I think the good news is that we've worked very hard to, you know, to improve the reputation of our schools. Our schools are excellent, but we've suffered from a perception about our schools that wasn't accurate, so we worked very hard to shift that perception, and I think we're seeing some results from that. Our choice out numbers are decreasing, and our choice in numbers are increasing. So that means that less money is leaving our district for students who are going to choice to other schools, and more money is coming in. So we're very pleased about that. However, once Hilltown Charter moved into our district, the charter numbers have gone up dramatically. So we had 51 students leaving for charter school in 2012, and in 2016 we had 96 students leaving for charter school. And charter school is more expensive for us than at around $10,000 versus $5,000 for choice out. So that's been that's the not so good news. We also have had some fluctuation in vocational tuition, so we are required to provide vocational education to any students who want it and who are accepted into a vocational school. We, Career Tech in West Springfield is our vocational affiliate, our primary vocational affiliate. So we send all of our kids there unless they want a program that doesn't exist at Career Tech, and then we send them to Smith. Now, at a substantially greater cost to us.
Smith is greater than the other one?
Absolutely. So in this current school year, the tuition for Smith Vocational was $17,556 per student, plus an additional $4,190 if this student has an IEP, an educational plan, special education.
You're up
plan.
200,000 from last year.
Yes. And
That's your-
and then for Career Tech, the tuition is $10,345. Now that's because they do their educational, academic part of their program at the high school, and then we bus them to C-Tech for their vocational program. And even with the transportation, it's less expensive for us to send them to C-Tech, which is a brand-new facility, and so, that works better for us financially. And also, we like having our kids in our high school, for part of the day, keeping them there with us, so that's an.
And that's only if they want something that you can't provide at East Hampton?
It's Career Tech
Correct.
for vocational.
Then they go
right.
to Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Counselor Smith, we are looking at what is the school department's proposed budget. It was sent to the finance committee. I don't know if you got that. They can make one available to you if you wish to have it. It is a little more detailed.
I'm just here to listen.
Okay. Just
But
wanted
you
you to know
do
what
have
we're
the-
looking at.
I just didn't have my key. I don't know if that needs to be open.
Okay, but
The
you do
door?
have the school, you do have the budget in front of you, right?
I'm trying to.
Because-
She has your proposed
Yeah.
budget. We're
Yes.
looking, yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. Okay, so, then the other thing I just wanted to talk about, I guess two other things, that the recent budget trends, and I think you're probably all pretty aware that we've had to make cuts in our budget every year that I can remember. And so this year, we were very pleased when the mayor approved our budget as it was written, and this will allow us to return 6 positions, and they're not necessarily the same 6 positions that we lost. Some of them are, but some are ones that we have need for now that we didn't have need for in years past. So we are putting world languages back into the middle school. We have a behavior analyst. This is a new position who will work throughout the district to help us with the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students. We have a classroom position, 2nd grade at the elementary school. We have a design tech teacher at the high school. We lost our design tech teacher 2 years ago, so we're really excited about putting that position back in and getting to use the fabrication labs the way they should be used. And we have a speech and language pathologist assistant position to help with the caseload of students who need speech and language services at Center and Pepin schools. Did I get all of them? Yes, okay. So we're very pleased about that. And clearly the largest part of our budget is instructional services that pay, that's the salaries for our teachers and our instructional staff. And that increases every year because of our contractual obligations.
Did they
So
get 1% last year?
They got 1%, 1.5%, I don't remember.
1.5, I
When's
believe.
their
1.5.
when's their
I think it was
contract?
1.5, and this year it'll be 2.
So they have another year on the current contract.
Yes, this current year.
They were also a year on the contract.
Yes.
The
But
upcoming
now-
budget year is the final year of the
That's
contract.
right.
So this FY17 budget is the final year of the contract.
That's right. We'll be in negotiations again this year.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to ask Dale if she will give you a little background on what she's done since she took over as Director of Business Services. This is her first year. We contracted with the management system before. They came in 1 day a week and then were always available to us. But with the prospect of a possibility of a new building, new construction and even just the MSBA process, I determined that it just wasn't going to work for our district to continue with that model. So we parted very amicably and still are in contact, and they still offer contracting services to us if we needed them. But we were very fortunate to get Dale, who was a superintendent in Pioneer up until we hired her for
You
the
were
director.
superintendent before this?
She was.
Yes.
So it's like you have two superintendents for
And
the.
previous to that, I was the assistant superintendent there. I was in the Pioneer District for almost 22 years.
That's good.
And she did all of the, and she's also a certified business manager, so.
I'm going to make this statement, and because I've always felt that this is a long time coming. I think a one-day-a-week business manager for a $16 million, $17 million budget was a little much to understand. I think this is a much better, thank you. Thank you for applying for the job, thank you for changing the job, because I think it's much better.
Well,
Takes the
and as
pressure
you
off the
know,
city's finance director, it's just,
as you know, it was difficult to make that decision before this because of the budgets and having to cut personnel. And so we tried to make do. And I do have to thank the mayor and Melissa for their help because, we transferred a position into the city, which actually works better in terms of the management of it, the payroll person. And
Okay.
that freed up additional funds, which enabled me to hire this position. So it was a real collaborative effort, and,
It wasn't an overnight decision.
no, we spent a lot of time talking about it.
The other, aside from budget, the other place I think that this position will pay real dividends for the city is the upcoming building project, because there's so much coordination relative to that falls to the school department, and now there's a person that can be dedicated toward it, which is great.
And Dale's already
Yes.
done a
Absolutely great.
good deal of work on this, and,
It's been great.
it's been great. And so I think knowing that we were headed into a building project, the mayor and Melissa both, again, were tremendously supportive in helping me try to get to this point where we had a full-time business manager. So with that, I'm going to let Dale just talk to you a little bit about the process that she used this year, which is different from the process that we've used in the past, but it's worked very well for us.
So I came aboard on July 1st, and very quickly, we started working to prepare ourselves to budget effectively for the upcoming year. And the place that we did that, it was with the district leadership team, the principals and program heads, the administrative special education. And we started early, we started right away. We spent a lot of time really trying to, and some of this was me needing to learn the system. We spent a lot of time trying to understand what our needs were and what our history had been relative to spending in the various spending categories over the last several years. We spent a lot of time aligning funding categories more tightly with spending needs, so that in the budget, which is the school budget, which is massive, that the money was in the right place for the anticipated needs. It had fallen somewhat out of alignment in that regard. We spent a lot of time talking about what we considered essential services in a school budget and what our priorities were for serving students better than we were. I think we spent a lot of time talking about our shared responsibility for the budget, and some of that was making some changes to the way the budget was organized, so it made more sense that people understood what their budget was and where the money was, and could therefore monitor it and manage it in a better fashion. We simplified the budget structure where we could, and the documentation so that reports made sense for people. And through it all, really try to focus on clarity and transparency. And then the other activity that was sort of going on at the same time was really actively pursuing efficiencies, spending efficiencies in the budget. So renegotiating some of the contracts that we could postage meter contract is an
You
example.
mean vendor contracts you're talking about?
Vendor contracts, yes. The copiers, we're on the brink of letting all new copier contracts, and there'll be some considerable savings over time in those. There's a brand-new administrator of special education in the district. She started July 1st as well. I think she's done a really terrific job at finding places where students with special needs might be able to be served better within the district at some savings, and has put those structures and programs into place for next year. Some of the new positions that Nancy talked about are aimed directly at that objective, is serving kids better here so that their needs don't rise to a level that we need to put them out at a more expensive placement, because we truly believe that kids are served best in their home community. And there's no doubt that they're served more cost effectively in their home community. So this was a process that the leadership team engaged in right from the very beginning of the school year. So by the time we started to build the budget, we really had developed a lot of common understanding about it, and we had also simplified some of the structure for the next year. And at that point, the finance subcommittee of the school committee got involved and reviewed each of the location budgets, made suggestions. There were some changes that came out about as a result of that process, and then finally resulted in the draft budget, the proposed budget that was put forward. And the budget that was put forward is an essential services budget, and by that we mean it has all services necessary to serve East Hampton children well next year, based on the students that we know that are coming. And how that, an essential service budget might be looked at as different than a level service budget is there were some places we reduced, because frankly we could. And then we repurposed that money to use in another place where it was needed.
That's the spending efficiency.
Yes, yes, yes. So,
See, now, to me, that's because you have the time to spend and fine-tooth comb the budget and find those spending efficiencies. And I, again, think that's wonderful, because without you guys asking for the right amount of money, the mayor couldn't give you in the past. What I didn't like about it was we always would look at the budget, and there was a certain amount of money asked for by the school board or the school department, and then the mayor had to cut it. If it was a 6-7% increase, even though there was a 3% increase, the perception is we're cutting the school budget, and you had to cut people. This is a much better process, because the perception is the schools are moving ahead, they're doing better, they are improving, and politics is all about perception. Perception is gonna be, in my view, much better for the schools when you don't have to use the word cut in any discussion.
We couldn't
Sorry.
agree more.
the only other thing that I would say is if you were to look at our budget document, it does look quite different. And the structure that we used is a location structure, so that it's really clear what it takes to run each location of the budget. And the person that manages it, it's very transparent and clear for them. And I think it will help building administrators and program administrators, and it already is working to serve a more effective role in managing and monitoring their own budgets.
Okay.
Because they own them and can understand them. Yeah.
Well, I have only a couple general questions looking at the, I'm sorry, are you finished?
I am done, yeah, yeah.
I wonder, and this is just me, I should know this, and I know it's one-time spending, but I'm looking at the general budget where we talk about, it's a page, that's my particular PDF, education. Total functions for education, it says, last year, the original budget was $16,190,500, but the actual adjusted budget is $17,029,000. Is that one-time spending?
Where are you, Dan?
It's in this, it's in the PDF under the top category, education. There is a
Yep.
cover sheet.
It has to do with the fact that the school department has to hold over a good amount of salaries
Okay,
for
there you
the
go.
summer, because teachers have a choice to, they've earned all their money by the end of the fiscal year, but they have a choice to
So that
pay
money is actually
So that's a
acquired.
big portion of that number, where
Okay.
it shows up as adjusted budget because the money was held from a prior year.
I just needed to be reminded, I remember that now, okay.
But I want
I don't know
to be
where
able to
you-
see the page that he's looking
Oh,
at.
Unfortunately,
Dan actually shared it
this-
with me,
This
so-
page is
The 3,000.
what I get. I don't think it's in that. It's a general thing.
Oh, it's probably the beginning.
I mean, when you go into the school department budget, it breaks it
It's
down.
in there, yeah, it says,
It's in the, is it in the printed
Is it
copy?
under
I
general
can't find
government?
it.
It's on the page 1, and it's also on page 14.
My
Okay, so you're
page is
looking at the
6.
summary, so just go to the
Oh,
school
they're in the
department.
summary.
Oh, I
Go
got
to
it.
the
I'm
school
there. I'm
department
right.
detail.
Okay.
It'll have salaries, and then it'll have expenses, and then it will have a third section 3, like we have in every department, holdovers, and you'll see that almost 700,000 or more than 700,000 of that is salaries.
Is this where it
See,
is?
it's a, yes, the third line
This-
down, school department holdovers. Fourth line,
This is where he's looking.
$747,000. Okay,
Here he is.
that explains that.
Okay, they were in the summary.
Okay. The only other question I had is, I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, you got hit really hard with out-of-district special ed tuition costs. Was there a change in that? My concern is if it goes down a lot in one year, how do you protect yourself from it going up again? I just need to know, where are we with special ed? I didn't delve into this as much as I should to find it.
Yeah,
Answer
well,
that?
you've been working really closely with our special ed
So,
director.
I think the answer is, over the course of this year,
Mhm.
we've been able to, move some students from out-of-district placements back in. So there
That
has.
saves a lot of money, doesn't it?
That has been it's a really significant savings. That has realized some savings, but you're absolutely right. With special ed, you can never cut it so tight that you don't give yourself a little
For the next year when somebody comes. in.
cushion for something that could happen. One student moves in, and it could be a $200,000
Right.
placement. So what we really try to do is really understand well what we anticipate our needs to be, and also allow us enough wiggle room, if you will, to deal with something if it does come up, because something will. We just don't know what it is.
That's what I was alluding to. And where does that wiggle room come from? Do you have to come back to the mayor and the council to ask for more money if you get a hit with a $200,000 out? I mean, what would you do? Because
Well,
that to me is a serious
We've got
issue.
some,
Right.
we've got some contingency within the special ed budget.
So there's contingency in there, okay.
There is some to deal with what we would expect to be a normal amount of ebb and flow.
Okay.
Beyond that, we would need to look,
Extraordinary relief.
I think, first to the rest of the operating budget to see if there was anything that changed. And finally, we get circuit breaker every year,
Yeah, how are we with that?
reimbursement, and
Is that down again from the year prior?
actually, it went up.
So that's a good thing.
It
Yeah.
went up.
And that's unusual, isn't it?
That helped us as well.
Yeah.
What is
Yes.
circuit breaker?
Ah.
Want me to answer that?
Sure.
Good luck. What
Circuit
page would that be
breaker
on in
is
here
a
before you-
reimbursement program
Exactly.
offered by the Department of Education that helps districts deal with extraordinary special ed costs.
Okay.
So they, every year, come up with an amount that they say a district can spend per person for a special ed student without any assistance. And I think this year was somewhere around $41,000.
Well, this,
And then if the expense per student exceeds that, they reimburse the district for those amounts in excess of the $41,000 at a percentage. And this year it was around 70%.
The percentage can change from year to year.
Yeah, it's all budget dependent.
in this page right here, it says 332,000 as opposed to 175 last year. Circuit breaker money is approved. Is that what I'm reading?
That's what was applied, used.
used.
That's
This is
what was
usual.
used.
This
It's
says
not
FY17
necessarily what we
proposed.
received,
No, it says what FY17 proposed.
what we will use of the circuit breaker.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I understand, all right.
Yes.
Just the
And does
three.
that make it into the budget as a line item anywhere?
Like, there are reimbursements, like, things like that just go directly to the school.
Okay, that we're
Okay,
not.
Just like, what is it, choice tuition, charter tuition?
Choice in.
Yeah,
Choice
those go
in.
directly to the school, those don't,
Charter does not go
yes.
over.
So there are things that go directly to the school for their uses.
That has no bearing on the budget.
But I think.
Well, it's not funds that we can use on the city side.
Okay.
You know, they're specifically earmarked, same as chapter 70.
Where it
But
has,
if you look at what they provide in the school, they'll tell you where their funding sources are,
Mhm.
because their budget is significantly larger than the appropriation they asked for from the city, and part of that is funding on circuit breaker.
Okay.
It is one of the
And,
major
that's
categories.
exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So.
Where it
so
has
you-
an impact is on our budget,
So you're.
because we anticipated applying so much.
How much
against our
is your
expenditures.
budget? 23 million?
Mm.
And then we're giving 15 and change?
Well,
15 and a half? or
Right.
Something like that?
15,549.
Yep.
26.
And that's not the net school. If you add the benefits and everything else to it, the total net education spending
It's
is
up
20
over
million.
20,
But that
yeah.
doesn't include these things. When we say net education spending of 20,679,000, that's what's coming out of the city side. That includes benefits, insurances, et cetera.
Yes, and then in addition to that, there's circuit breaker reimbursement, there's choice revenue, there's
Grant
grants.
funding.
Yeah, and it's
So-
chapter 70.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. So we have 15,549, 226 in the budget.
That's the appropriation that the school is getting, the exact
from
amount.
the city.
From the entire budget, from our $39 million,
Dollar budget.
$40 million, that
They get
part-
15 and a half. then.
Exactly.
So then, don't answer this question.
Well,
So then, to get to 20,679,000 in total net education spending, there's
Okay.
a 5 million differential.
So, but that's different from circuit breaker. So a lot of those costs in net school spending, so if you look at the net school spending sheet, is broken down in costs to cover the fact that my office does payroll for the school department, so they pay a percentage of.
Your salary,
Well, they
essentially.
don't pay it, but that's how we
They're
say,
charged.
there's a cost.
They're
If they were
charged.
standalone, they'd have to hire. yeah,
And so
there's-
they have to fund that somehow.
No, they
No.
don't. It's
It's
just
just-
a reporting mechanism
Okay.
for general fund operations that support the school, but are not directly a part of their budget that they,
Okay.
But counts towards net school
So
spending.
this is just a number that says how much you're spending, but for purposes of this budget, the allocation
Yeah.
is 15.5.
That's
Mhm.
exactly right. That's
right,
the
and then,
allocation.
in addition to that, because like,
Mhm.
we're funding my portion, my salary in my office, but in the net school spending formula, it says how much does city of East Haven-
2% of you and 3%
Whatever.
of somebody else.
Right. And
Okay.
then their health insurance, which is a big number and that kind of thing. But then in addition to that, there are direct revenue sources that never pass through the general fund, that go directly to the school, and those are circuit breaker, choice.
Choice.
And grants received. So that's,
Hopefully grants received. We love to
Yeah.
receive them.
Yeah, getting lower
Okay.
and lower.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I got it,
complicated.
okay.
So the way I understand
Thank you,
it
Melissa.
has always been that we give them a 15.5, which the school department and the school board spends as they wish. That's theirs to divide up. The 5,130,000 is the cost of the school department to the city of East, the general fund, separate from the schools. That includes payroll costs, it includes benefits, it includes insurances, healthcare, all of
Retirement
that.
assessments.
So if a taxpayer asks, how much do you spend on schools? It's not 15 million, it's 20 million. That's what I tell them, and that's part of the, that doesn't even include, though, the money they get separate from our taxation in our general fund, which is the circuit breaker. And that, does that include chapter 70? Is chapter 70 something?
Chapter 70 runs through the general fund.
It does run through the
And
general
that
fund, that's what I
does
thought.
fee
comes in under tuition.
to
And
the.
as does, if we have some tuition in and other things that comes through the,
Well, choice in goes directly to the school department.
that goes directly,
Mhm.
okay.
Charter in goes to
We
the
don't have
general
charter,
fund.
we have
I don't,
charter out.
charter out, well, charter in and charter out go to the general fund. Choice in goes directly to, I have charter, on the cherry sheet, there's charter in.
Mhm.
Oh, it's in our district?
I don't understand why they.
That's interesting.
It's the reimbursement, you know, the 75.
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, the reimbursement.
Okay.
So, and then choice and charter out is all part of the general fund expense. And that's
Okay.
part of why this number is so big, is those are huge numbers, the
Mhm.
charter out, which is a cost of supporting students in the district that the school department doesn't see.
We're
Which
supporting
is-
students at another school, is what that means.
Which is what we've been working pretty
Yeah.
nonstop on for at least the last 3 years,
We're trying
easily.
to fix that, though.
So, you know, and those are the improvements that you have started to see in the choice, which is a huge improvement, any improvement instead of going the other way.
I have
Yeah,
a quick
Cameron?
question. With the budget line for the world languages, can you just speak a little to who will be receiving world languages at this point in the middle school?
We haven't made a definitive decision on this yet, but at this point, it's looking like it would be an exploratory, like we used to have, so that our students will get an experience with a couple of different languages. And I'm not sure how far in the grade levels it's going to go at this point.
Okay, that's the one question I keep getting asked, whether or not
Yeah.
someone who is in 8th grade next year, if they'll be able to be a part of that, or if this will only cover the incoming class, so.
Oh, no, it wouldn't, it would be more the upper classes, I believe, but that's a decision that, you know, I'll be making with the building principal. That's still in the works. So when we get the definitive answer, I'll share it with you.
Oh, that was great,
Okay.
thanks.
So, I have no questions beyond what I asked. I'm looking at the school department's breakout, which is our page 54 on the PDF. I see nothing, everything, the holdovers is right there, that explains that. Should have known that, and other charges. Any questions? Just purchase of services, Medicaid, school supplies, that's where I am, under personnel services.
I have a question that's kind of not fair. It's about future budgets, not this one. And
Definitely not
sustaining these
fair.
new positions. Have we looked ahead to keeping these 5.5 positions past?
And we didn't put positions into place that we didn't think we could sustain.
That's
We were very
important.
conservative when we made these decisions and very thoughtful about it. So we did it with the understanding and intent that we would be able to sustain these positions.
And I knew you'd do it thoughtfully, but
Nice to
But
hear.
with the
It comes
intent,
up.
intentionally as
Definitely.
well.
That was the finance subcommittee of the school committee, that was very important to them.
Well, it's never our intent as a city as a whole to put in positions and then remove them the following year.
No, we didn't want to get ourselves into that
Mhm.
position because, as I think we've mentioned here tonight, you know, we want this to look like the beginning of the growth of our schools, you know, positive growth stage in our schools, and we want to keep that going, that image going, and that perception in the community. So we're very intentional and careful about that, we believe.
Good.
One question, and this might be to you, Melissa, the transportation and ComServe, is that, what is that?
We break that out because the transportation of students is expensive, and that's why it's a big number. And I picked the number out of what the school department provided to me. But transportation is not considered net spending, it's considered non-net spending. So we have to separate it, so I went from, you know, what I interpreted on there to be the non-net number for the school and put it in the budget. Now, they can move that up and down as it
So
really
that's
applies.
part of the 15 million?
Yeah.
It's not, okay.
It is.
is. Yeah, but
If
it's
you look
not
at the-
part of the, it's not part of the, I believe it's, why I think for some reason it's 16, but.
Well, because it is,
Yeah.
because it
If you look at
is.
the
Yes.
summary page, which I
Because it
started
is.
with.
Yeah,
It's
so-
16,516,306, because that part does include the transportation, which is
Yes, the
what
summary
Peg's
page does
asking.
have that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
but the transportation is not considered net school spending, so we do have to separate it. When they're putting their budget together, that's a bill that the school department pays to bus students. And it's, in this other formula that we have to do, you have to separate it.
Okay, so it's technically aligned to transportation, so it's not just 967,000 they can spend any way they want it.
Well,
Like their
actually-
15.5 million.
Actually, they can spend it any way they want it. The reason it's separated is because I believe they have that's what they put in their stuff. I mean, did I interpret that correctly when I did the
This is what
budget?
she's talking about.
So
The
it's
transportation
Talking about that.
they can move it up and down, however, it actually needs to
Talking
be
about your
applied.
transportation,
But in
right.
order to guess as to
Right.
how much money, that was what I
Put-
took from here as their non-net.
Mhm.
So they're then getting 16.5 million allocated.
Yeah.
The,
Okay.
the bottom line is
It's
exactly,
16.
right, so exactly what you asked. The transportation added to that is exactly that, the 16,516,306.
All right.
Anything else, Peg? Sure. Tamara? Joe?
I just want
Yeah,
to
for
commend
you.
you for the budget and having a lot of kids in the school district and being here when we've had to make those cuts. It's really exciting to be on the other side of that. And I've personally seen all the ways that you have very intentional projects with the children and intentional support for the children, even with the cuts. I'm really excited to see what it'll look like without the cuts.
We're very excited.
We are too.
And you know, and I think it is a result of the really strong leadership team I have now, but also the collaboration with the mayor and the city.
It's been
departments.
wonderful.
So it's, you know, so I think we are.
It's
on
just
the-
gonna make
I just feel
a big difference in the perception of our
It's
school.
one city.
Absolutely. And I like, it's huge to me to hear the word essential services versus level services. People need to understand what that means, and we need to harp on it as much as we can. Essential services prioritizes the students. Level services, now we're gonna try and match what we did, and usually we can't in prior years. This is much better. Much better. I'm gonna read a motion to approve this unless there's any other questions. I'll let you have it. This is the motion that matches what Melissa sent to us for the final. I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full council to raise and appropriate the sum of $16,516,306 for the various departments listed under Section 3 schools, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the mayor and finance as recommended by the mayor, period. That's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You probably didn't, Barbara did.
Finance Committee voted 3-0.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Karen?
Right, I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, that was close.
Good night.
And on the, there's.
Where are you going next?
We gotta find my
We're trying to work
agenda.
our way through.
Section 5, Human Services.
Up there, right? So we figured we would-
So I'm looking at the summary page first. Human Services, I'm looking at the summary page first, and then we'll go into each individual.
And what page do you show for the?
The summary pages, if I understand it in the printed report, are separated out, right?
There, I got it.
You got it.
Page 9.
It says page 9, that's
All
good.
right,
There you go. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. I have, page 17. This is what I'm looking at. I click on that, and I get the summary, and then you go into each of those. Page 9.
All right, I'm looking at this number.
Okay, I'm looking at the number up in the corner. So it is 18 in the PDF. I see what you're saying, yes.
Thank you.
But page 9 we printed over.
This is the hardest thing we're gonna do, is figure out what page on the PDF we are.
Well, yeah,
See?
See, karma.
Okay, we're in recess for a moment.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Ah, Kid just got into a car accident.
Again?
No.
I didn't think you
Not
had
my
any,
car.
I was gonna say, I didn't think you had any cars left for him to drive.
Watch your computer.
Oh, that's fine. Don't cry, we're still Dyke.
Huh?
That's what Mom always said. Don't cry, we're still Dyke.
Since
At
we're,
least it wasn't me.
Oh, so absorbent.
my family is actually doing the strengthening families with the schools right now. And so since it looks like Chris has to go to the hospital, I have
more
to go
thing?
take care of the other kids.
Oh,
two more?
No, I think we're.
Someone's hurt?
Chris has to
Yeah,
go
I
to the
don't
hospital.
Chris is the kind of kid that will always be like, I gotta go to the hospital, so.
No, you got a call.
Oh, Chris has gotten too close.
Everything's okay. Here, Peg.
Okay. We have a running diaper.
Thanks for letting us know about the door.
Oh, yeah.
Unlocked it. Hopefully it's still unlocked. Either they're left open all night or they're locking people out of meetings.
And
Just in case.
Yes, Father.
Just in case. Okay,
That's fun.
in general,
Lifetime.
Do you find it?
page 9.
It's right at the beginning.
See you later.
Oh, look, here's 7.
Way at the beginning.
No,
Oh, the beginning.
Yeah.
page 9 of
It's
the.
under
be-
1, and these are all the summaries, so go to 7.
Right.
You go to
Nine,
page
I'm
9.
sorry.
Right.
Looking at this, there's a $3,000 difference between the requested stage and the recommended stage, mostly in the Board of Health. So we'll go into the Board of Health, but is there a general statement why that's lower? Or should we just look at the actual budget?
I think I think it'd be easier when you look right at the actual budget,
Okay.
like where her requests were.
It looks like one of the biggest
She-
was in professional services.
Right, she had, you know, she's thinking if she needs to prepare for epidemics in the future, things like that, unforeseen things that might come her way, like Zika and those type of things, and we figured those are really where something extraordinary comes on, that's where we use our reserve.
Yeah, or reserve our emergency funds, yes. I
Exactly.
totally agree.
So, that, again, being extremely frugal, we tend to not put funds in there that are not definitely anticipated. And when something unexpected comes up, that's when we fund them. So we did have that conversation during the budget meetings.
I see no major significant change in the line items other than perhaps that, which isn't significant to me. Do you guys have-
Office supplies, I mean, seriously.
What?
Big drop in office supplies.
Right.
Was she gonna buy a new printer or something?
Well, I think there were some renovations requested, you know, to renovate the office, and that's,
Or like walls and things?
yeah,
Cubicles?
reconfigure and.
Or you
that's-
mean from her request?
Right,
Yeah.
so those are wonderful ideas, but sometimes, you know, not priorities on our end.
Yep.
You pretty much leveled that, all of the lines across there. Okay. Salaries are up a little bit.
I believe that.
Is that a step?
That's a
Then
step.
two-
Step
Right.
increase?
Right, and then,
2 of the 3 employees in that department have steps.
Is the 55,000 just the health
yes,
agent? Okay.
yes, that's, and then there's the clerical underneath, part-time clerical.
And part-time nurse, okay.
Right.
All right. I don't have any further questions on the Board of Health. Do you guys, anybody? Council on Aging?
And I did, when you get to Linda, when you get to Linda.
Council on Aging, that's where I am right now.
Right, I would like to say that Linda is somebody, she's a wonderful director, as you all know, and I know that you're aware that she usually attends every finance subcommittee meeting,
Mhm.
when it's her budget. She has a medical situation and she's not able to
Oh, I'm
attend.
sorry to hear that.
And wanted me to relay that information to you.
Thank you.
And I told her that I would, that you would totally understand why she's not here.
Can I assume the full-time supervisory, that's an increase due to a step increase? How many employees are under full-time permanent?
There's a couple on there.
Well, I gotta find her first.
It's page 83.
Okay. So the full-time supervisory would be the director.
Right, and she got a
And-
step increase.
Yes. And then under the full-time permanent is, do you have our requests? Because there would be,
I'm just curious
The
why it
van-
went
that would be
down. I assume it might
that'd be the
be,
van driver.
So, full-time supervisor is the
Right.
executive director.
Right.
And then the full-time other is,
Transportation
trade
coordinator, which I call the
and
van driver.
An outreach worker.
Outreach work, yes.
so when the salary goes down, is that because we have new employee that's entry level or something like that?
Actually, we did have someone retire last fiscal year, that had been here a very long time. And we
So
have
a
a
new salary.
new person who has gotten nothing but glowing reviews. Is from,
But they start at a lower salary than the guy that retired, so.
typically,
Yeah.
typically we do.
Okay.
And, he's talking about the difference between the 74 and the 72, also from,
So that answers that?
yes.
Everything else looks level?
No positions were cut.
No,
Is
I
I
know.
know what you want, you know, you
No,
want to be sure.
it's only 2,000. If you cut a position, it'd be a lot more than $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're very happy about, that's another department that we're very happy about, obtaining that van at no cost to the city when the Friends bought the first one for close to 70,000. So to obtain a brand-new one at no cost to the city is allowing them to do things that we've been wanting to do for years, to outreach so that we can transport, patients to Northampton, to doctor's appointments and, blood work, different things like that. So the plan is, with that, is to expand the transportation, which is, to me, something we've been wanting to do for a long time.
What falls under in-state travel?
Mileage.
For-
If you, like, say you have to go to a different meeting, you're required to go to a different, out of your own building.
So what would,
Or like a seminar, if you're, like you have a seminar you need to maintain, it might be in Worcester, and you use your own vehicle.
But
What?
Council on Aging is higher than most departments
Mhm.
because it also
Yep.
covers the outreach of going to home visits.
Right, but it's
So
their
there's a lot
mileage.
of mileage there
Right.
that's more than other departments.
They're not, people think they're volunteers, they're not, which they are a huge part of a volunteer basis, but that's what, they don't get paid for their services, but they get mileage. So
That
to
gets
go.
paid us.
Hmm?
This is for the outreach worker,
Yeah.
Brandon.
We only have, how many do we have now?
Right, but that one, he does home visits.
Mhm.
That's not the drivers who run errands.
Right. I know that.
so is he doing like,
He's
help-
the outreach worker, so he visits people's
How
in
you
their house.
doing?
And
Do you need any services?
Or provides
Can we help you
them
with Medicare
a lot of
papering and things like that?
There's a lot of people that need outreach. It's a very important
Because they
position.
can't come in to the building.
Right, or sometimes we get calls, Linda would get calls about
Can
them
you
or.
just check up on somebody?
Well, it might be a little bit more serious than that. It might be calls from the fire department or the health agent that this person you might want to contact. So it's a
Okay.
crucial position, outreach.
And that
It's
falls-
exactly what it is.
That person falls into the personnel services and then they charge their mileage, or they are volunteer but they charge mileage?
No, he's not a volunteer.
Okay.
they're,
That's a
They fall
full-time
into
position.
the upper portion of
right,
this.
but then, they're using their own vehicles. to-
Right.
So we give them the mileage.
We don't let them take the van. Sorry about that.
Anything else on COA? Dan? Veteran Services. I don't see anything that's unusual under miscellaneous professional. We are maintaining him as part of a joint operation with other communities. That's still the same.
Yes,
The other communities are agreeing to continue that, of
we have a
course.
Veterans Council
Okay, good.
How is
between
it
two
that-
other
oh.
communities. I'm
Go.
sorry.
No, no, go.
No, that's it.
My question was really dumb. It's about to be. How is it that you're able to keep postage at the same level?
John
every
doesn't
year?
do a lot of mailings. He probably has the same type of, I mean, he doesn't do, as you can see, $105, he doesn't do a lot of mailings.
I noticed under benefits that we're way up, and that's because we have more veterans, like we just had to do a supplemental on that. So the first
Yes.
line is up
More
325.
We took that into consideration instead of
So you
just
increased that because you
try-
knew what you were gonna ask for, yeah?
And we know we just came back to you, and it kind of is seems to be a yearly thing where this time of year, the benefits are depleted. So we bumped it up anticipating that they would be. Probably, not, you know, hoping to get by, but again, if they are increased,
Mhm.
then we'll be back.
Is there any percentage reimbursement on those? from the state?
75.
So is it 75% of this 340?
Of whatever we actually spend.
Okay, but
What we pay out to the, what he pays out to the
Of
veterans.
eligible things?
Yes, and he doesn't pay out until, like, he's always sure it's an eligible payout before he does it, and he receives 75% reimbursement.
that comes
by
back to the
state.
general fund, right?
It's on the charity, it's.
It's anticipated.
They're in arrears all the time, so when we're getting it, it's from the prior.
No.
But you budget based on the fact that you will get 75% of what you
We
think.
budget based on what the state says they're going to send us on the charity.
Okay, that makes sense.
What you end up getting.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Anything else on Veteran Services?
No?
Survival Center?
It's not on the,
I have survival, oh, wait a minute. I'm
it's not
wrong.
on the thing anymore, right?
That's it. That's under a different budget. My apologies.
No, I think.
Is it?
So Northampton Survival Center is under this, but it's no longer.
We don't have any
funded.
money in it anymore, right?
So when do you take that off the budget?
It rolls off, but it doesn't show up.
You
Okay.
see how, you can see how it's got a
Okay.
couple more years to go,
I see.
instead of just ripping out the page.
Right.
Okay, so that's all on Human Services. Any other questions on it?
She does, just so you know, she's been, Heidi, very proactive in trying to work with the city on, you know, future grants when we're eligible for CDBG grants. So she has come in and spent a lot of time talking to me and, you know, and the grant department on, you know, how she could be part of our CDBG grant requests. That's where she obtains her money, what they, not related, but what she does is she receives $10,000 from Northampton, from their CDBG. That's how she's funded there. The rest of it is, you know, fundraising on your own, so.
Okay.
Hanging out.
What's the likelihood of us being CDBG eligible? Is that something?
Well, we've
likely?
applied, well, we are eligible, but the getting approved is the problem. Like, once they regraded us,
Uh-huh.
put us in a different tier,
Right.
it's extremely difficult, because we're, a large group of people are fighting for a small pot of money, so we will be hearing. We did put in an application this year, and what we have the public hearings, and what the outreach was on that is what I think is a fantastic thing. First of all, the restructuring of different areas, which you've seen, which happened over in Admiral and all of that, but also housing rehab. which is for, I think that's just one of the things that just provides, so much assistance, and then it's a fantastic program, and there's a long list of applicants for it.
And what was it that pushed us into a different category with our median income or something?
Yes.
Really? Wow.
What does CDBG stand for?
Community Development Block Grant. But there are communities that are entitlement communities, which they receive it every year. We
Northampton,
used to be able to
Amherst.
apply, now we can only apply every 2 years. So it's very difficult.
Northampton's medium income is less than ours.
Northampton, no one is quite sure
I'm surprised at
how,
that.
and it's also size-wise, it's usually population-wise too,
Well,
so
when you're on
no
a
one's
trust
quite
fund, they
sure.
count income
It's usually the
differently.
large cities, like Holyoke,
Yeah.
Springfield.
And Amherst
So
gets it.
Northampton is a surprise to everybody that they are an entitled community. But,
And Amherst gets it, because I think that's how they
Yes.
fund their.
yes, it
their-
is exactly
their-
how, but I mean, it's good, it's just of interest to know that that's how they fund, Northampton funds the
The
survival
survival center.
center, the
Yeah.
10 grand, that is how they fund them. It's, not related, but might be
Interesting.
interesting.
I'm gonna abbreviate the motion, because I don't think we need to read it as complete. I'm gonna say, I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full council to raise and appropriate the sum of $623,396.48 for the various departments listed under Section 5, Human Services, period.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Lastly, I think we're doing debt and interest, is that right? Do we have to pay our debts?
Yep.
Yes, we do.
We were just talking this morning about the difference in, this is the interest that we would like to be high, the interest that we make.
Well, it's gone down a little bit every year, it's nice to see. We're down almost, but it looks like about 80 grand from last year in the totals. I'm looking at the summary page on
Mhm.
page.
604 versus 502.
Principal. What's coming off this year? Anything?
We were just talking about that.
Nothing really coming. It's
Headworks, right?
Yeah.
Headworks.
DPW is good. The 17, the last payment for one of their,
Which line?
You had it on-
oh, it has.
Yeah, I have it. Okay, I know I said wastewater treatment plant, Headworks, and water treatment plant.
They're the same.
Those are,
So, one of the DPW, sewer treatment improvements came off this year. But that's all funded by Enterprise ultimately through their chargeback.
Mhm.
And then, I believe I did.
Can I help you, sir?
Yes, there's supposed to be a hearing this evening
On what?
on a piece of property over on Route 10.
probably
Planning board?
10.
Mr. Boyle, Dave Boyle was.
Can you know what? I'll
Is there a
go-
planning board meeting tonight, or?
I'm gonna go out to the front of the building and it tells all the.
She has them also on
I
the
got a
bullet
card.
board in there, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then all of them are there.
Oh.
Oh, you got a
I got a
card?
card in the mail.
Yeah, I'll show you, like, and it'll tell you where they are. Any meeting that is scheduled this week.
Now, the high school where it says 700,000, which doesn't change, can you explain what that is to this lesser person who doesn't know?
It's the principal payment on the high school, the first borrowing for that.
And we have to pay for it the same every year?
Well, that's just the way that debt is structured.
Okay.
Is that even principal payments and interest on the balance on, typically how they're structured.
Okay.
The ones that are odd amounts are, this is almost always the same, like public safety complex. So it's the same amount until it's paid off until the last year when there's not that much anymore.
Mhm.
And that's typically how they're
How they
structured.
structure the bonding.
Yeah, we don't structure even payments, we structure even principal payments. So a lot of people have their mortgages and they pay $1,500 a month, but, $3
Goes
goes
like
to
this.
principal and the rest goes to interest. Well, we pay more in the beginning in interest, but we always make the same principal payment.
Okay.
That's just how the thing is structured. And so there's some new amounts this year. There are these weird numbers like 71 cents. And some of them have to do with the way that anything that's borrowed for basically water or water treatment is done through a program with MWPAT, and they have these weird formulas, and I don't know how they come up with them, but that's just how they are. Like they tell us this is how we're gonna pay, and it's this much principal, this much interest, and this much forgiven, and this much administration, and what have you. And then I also did a refinance last year, if you might recall, or maybe,
No, I do.
Yep.
and so when we refinanced them, all those nice even 700,000
Change.
changed, because we put them all into one big refinance, and then it's being allocated based on how much was owed on each one of those loans.
That kind of great savings.
So we
You
pay
remember that?
400,000 in interest on the high school per year and 700,000. We pay 1.1 million to that bond per year? Is that what that is telling me? Am I adding it
Yeah,
right?
there's actually two loans for the high school.
He's looking at this sheet, right?
I'm looking at debt interest
Right.
in high school, but
Mhm.
So that big house note, at 196, that's it.
Mhm.
okay. We've got another, what, 10 years on the high school? 15?
I think we're way more than that.
I
Because
don't-
don't forget, like, with the high school project, we only borrow as we need it. We
Right.
borrow the whole amount at the beginning, which is another cost savings, but pay it off.
And the State House note, is that just a different loan from the other line item?
Right, so I did them at two separate times.
Yeah.
I borrowed the majority of the project shortly after I got here, because the project was kicking off, interest rates were good, and we were in construction. But you didn't want to borrow more than
Right.
the project was gonna
Mhm.
cost. So then, so I borrowed a big chunk, I believe it was 14 million at first. And then we borrowed some short-term borrowing to keep the project moving and figure out, and then when we finally closed out the project, and they came to speak to you at the council meeting, and then I knew the exact number that I needed to pay off the permit, and so I took all that short-term borrowing and I put it in a new loan, permanent. It will be paid off much faster than the original loan, but it was just, we didn't need to be paying those kind of interest charges on money we weren't spending just yet.
Yep.
And we were also able to increase our bond rating, I'm sure you remember that, which makes us, we jumped two points, 2 levels, which makes us very advantageous when you're borrowing. That's why you
Well,
want to
your
have a
interest
good-
is so much less, it's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so these are just a lot of things that, we
Well,
spent a lot of time working on.
In that State House note, I did that because I was being frugal.
That's why it's good to keep stabilization high, because it shows them that if we have an emergency, we can fix it.
Mhm.
That's why the bond agencies love us, they don't.
But we didn't go to the bond ladies for those smaller loans,
Right.
because it's less expensive. I mean, you pay for the privilege of them judging you. And,
I like that, that's a good statement.
and so if you do a State House no, you don't have to you have to be reviewed by them every couple of years because you have notes outstanding. But you don't have to do, we're gonna borrow $15 million and, did you put money in stabilization this week? You know, did you have
Yeah.
a disaster? Oh, how can you
Mhm.
handle? And so, we didn't have to do that, and so the issuance cost of something, smaller, like a State House note is $1,000 versus tens of thousands of dollars in legal opinions and.
That's if you borrow the big ones.
Yeah, you have to do
You
that
have
if you're
to do
buying the
that.
big one. But for smaller ones, sometimes you can just, it's sort of administered through the state, and the issuance cost is significantly less. Your closing costs are significantly less. So if you can do that in a smaller one, that's great. But when you're doing the huge project, like when you borrowed for the original, we're building a high school, you can't get away with that.
They may wanna know where you stand.
Well, also, and I think State House notes, they'll only let you go out 5 years, so I don't think we wanna pay back, you know.
No, I
$20
don't.
million.
For 5 years.
Well, it looks good to me.
And Melissa, I apologize, you probably explained this to me last week, but what are principal temp loans and why and maybe you just already told us, and why is it so much lower than it has been?
What line are you looking at?
Oh, principal on temporary loan, so,
Where are you, Peg?
The debt,
so the high school.
Debt principal line,
The
page 80?
the high
Yeah.
school, was a temporary loan, and I was carrying that with some other stuff in my temporary loan line. And then when I permanently borrowed that for a 5-year period with a State House note, I moved it up. And the payments had to be fit into the 5 years, and therefore became slightly more aggressive than they had been in the past. The other temporary note is we bought, before you started, a ambulance and a dump truck for the DPW and an ambulance for the fire department or the EMT department, and they were both partially funded from free cash and other sources, and then the rest was borrowed for 3 years as a way to put aside money for larger capital items that wasn't dependent on how much money did we save last year. So like, let's just plan that we need to spend about $100,000 a year replacing larger vehicles. And so this is that $90,000, and this is the last year of that project. And so, hopefully we'll look at doing that again. And if we don't do that again, that's a big part of why we're creating the capital stabilization, so that if we don't actually borrow another, $300,000 or $400,000 we are putting that money into capital stabilization, so that when we need that
don't have
$300,000 vehicle, we can buy that $300,000.
Buy it without borrowing.
Right.
Right, but the
Excellent.
interest rates are so low, and this is a way to sort of keep it in the budget, and it doesn't just disappear into rising costs of other things, because you expect it to be there.
Okay.
And they're also.
And it's always the same, so that you.
Well, it's about $100,000 in principal and whatever the interest is at the time. And if interest rates go through the roof, then you say, oh, well, then we're gonna budget to put it in capital stabilization and plan to pull it out in the same year. So capital stabilization doesn't move necessarily, but we're always making that, we need $100,000 for these big purchases.
Yep.
Which isn't, enough, but it is a
It's the
start.
beginning.
Mhm.
It's the beginning of a plan. We didn't have the capital stabilization plan, and we created that specifically for that. And there were many years, as some of you are gonna know, that we didn't do any capital. So that was part of the whole reason, like, it's also, not just trying to put stabilization, trying to, save for capital too.
Yeah.
And you're preserving that for the big ticket item, the $300,000 truck or something. Because we still do capital out of free cash and other sources as long, but they're smaller amounts.
Right, but.
But there were years we didn't do any, even
Yeah, I
small
know,
ones.
police cars even.
But if you look
Yeah.
at free cash, you don't always have as much as we've had the last couple of years.
Right, you can't count on it, that's why having a stable, and so I'm sure the bonding agencies like seeing that as well as the regular stabilization. They love it.
They
We're
look
in,
at it as all one.
Do they? Okay.
we're in pretty good shape. I like it. So any more questions on debt and interest? It's pretty simple. I'm just gonna make a simple motion. I move that the Finance Committee recommend to the full council to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,374,346.41 for the various departments listed under Section 7, Debt and Interest.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. I didn't say this at the beginning, but when we do these discussions, if there's questions that they need to come back to us to answer, we won't move that particular department that night. We'll do it the next meeting. But let's hope that doesn't happen, but.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have any ahead of time too, don't wait.
That would
you
save
know,
us trouble,
or-
because like the last meeting, if there's
Right.
something we have to come back with, we're gonna have to have
Right.
another meeting.
Melissa knows that I gave her a slew of questions last week, so.
She loves answering your
I
questions.
know.
I just want to say that in debt and interest, there are those other funding sources on it, and it's not important that you vote that here in finance, but you have to do those other funding sources.
Right, I do that
Yeah.
I just didn't think we needed to do
No,
it.
you don't, but I just wanted to make sure you,
Is that the
Oh,
breakout? that
thi-
you got
This
on
is the
there?
breakout that Barbara gave me that you sent her.
right.
I have to, what she's saying is I
Right.
have to read all of this at the final vote of the council.
Right, you know
Yeah.
that.
We don't have to read it.
And usually you share
Right.
it, so you may be reading some too.
Yes,
Right.
all of these, there's like, all
Long.
departments are,
Right.
in other words, when we do the actual council, we'll read this exactly as it is.
Got
It was sent to Barbara just for review, so she could be going over it.
But I wanted to have something to read tonight, so that, so.
Can you send me that?
Yes, I can, but the change is Finance Committee recommend as opposed to City Council.
And also, that you added, Dan, if I'm not mistaken, CPA to the last night, that'll put that
Yeah,
on the budget.
Barbara told us we had to do, well, we didn't
Yep.
have it in there, and I think we have to approve that, so.
No,
There's
you know,
nothing
do
in
you
Oh,
feel that, I mean, you're on CPA, you're the chair of CPA, I would prefer not to ask somebody, you know, like Jamie to be here if not needed.
No, you don't need them.
Okay.
And we went over the budget, it's a
That's what I
simple
thought.
budget, it's
That's what I
mostly
thought.
for
I mean,
administrative.
it's pretty cut and dried, and you're the chair, so, okay.
Yes. That doesn't mean I'll be able to answer the questions. I'm only the chair for the first
Yeah.
3 months of my life here, so if Peg has a lot of questions of the chair, I'll probably have to
Oh, I'll be
sit her
coming up
down
with
and
them
talk.
now.
Well,
That's a case where if you have questions on CPA, please call Jamie. Seriously, guys.
She's
I'm not
very
that,
detailed.
I'm not that knowledgeable
Yeah, no,
of
that's
everything
fine.
in it
Right.
as well as I should be. I am going to,
other than that, I'm not going to request that she attend,
No.
Yeah, that's
okay?
crazy.
Because, you know,
I'm gonna forward this to you right now.
Thank you. So next Tuesday,
is Public Works, Enterprise, Cultural, and Rec.
Mm-hmm. Do we have department heads coming?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They won't miss it.
So those are a little more detailed, and
Well, that's-
obviously if there's something that can be answered to your satisfaction ahead of time.
yeah.
But
No, but I mean.
I only look at, as I said, where things changed a lot
Right.
from year to year.
Yeah,
so.
but I don't mean, I just mean like other besides John Mason.
So I am gonna forward the one message to you, Peg, that has the
Okay.
PDF of the votes. It also has agendas in it and everything.
Perfect.
It's on its way. Okay.
And if anybody else obviously wants a printed budget, just don't, have you know, if you hear of
Just us
anybody,
old
just
folks.
don't, what?
Just us old folks. And infirm.
Yeah.
Well, I finally learned how to navigate my own PDF, so. And now I know.
I forgot my iPad tonight, but it didn't matter. 'cause
Is
I-
the school department's budget online too?
Well,
Under their budget, under school department?
not they're requested, but they're.
Right.
This isn't on there?
No.
It would not
Would it?
be.
No.
That would never be on there. That's somebody's request. That would never be part of our
Do they,
budget.
when they break it out?
Like that, like every single department provides us with that.
Oh, right, that's what
So
that
that
is.
would never be part, that's never
Right, their
part of the
budget, their budget in which is approved final is
Yeah.
on there.
Absolutely. What's
Their
right,
own.
you were,
We just went through.
How they
yeah,
spend.
you were just reviewing that.
Right.
But how they
I mean
spend
the
the 20
details.
million?
The details aren't online?
I would say.
Well, your details are online, that's what I meant. If
But
they're
they would
not-
have more details of how they spend it, how they're allocating it.
You know what, we could ask them.
Because their budget here is broken out by each
Right,
school.
But that's the
But
request.
but see,
of-
I know,
this is
but
just
they
a
may have a-
proposal, so you have to
But they may have
understand,
the actual aligned accordingly.
maybe, but in many years, this proposal was nowhere near what they received.
Right.
So this would have been not worth,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
I
But
think from
what
a
they
formatting
receive is
perspective-
broken out like
Right,
you
like Peg
have
said.
it, line by line.
Yep.
And that, I think, well, I think it should be
It
there.
actually isn't, it has two lines.
I'm gonna, can it move to adjourn?
Because-
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
And actually, once we allocate the money to